Graphic design? Can you make a living at that?
Three, two, one, fun, 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 fun.
Welcome to Design Futures, a show about what happens after design school. I'm Chris St. Cyr, and my guest on this episode is Lindsay Agnew. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chris?
I am good. Let's hear all about you. Lindsay is a creative director at Panama Jack, a lifestyle brand where she designs many aspects of the e-commerce products, including sun care packaging and apparel graphics. She has previously worked for The Villages, Central Florida Regional Transportation Authority, and Walt Disney Imagineering. According to her Instagram profile, she is an artist of many mediums, currently renovating a 90s builder grade home. I don't know what that is, and a soap maker. Finally, she is a 2010 graduate of the Ringling College of Art and Design. Yeah, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for inviting me.
The reason I reached out to you originally was because you were working at the Villages, and I've been to the Villages. It's very, very Florida. That was my initial kind of piqued my curiosity when I saw that on your profile on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, I got to talk to somebody who works for a place like the Villages, because that's definitely a different kind of design experience. But we'll get to that. Let's start with Panama Jack. What do you do there at Panama Jack?
So yeah, I've been at Panama Jack for over a year now. It's a lot of fun. Basically, the brand is a lifestyle beach brand, and we kind of sell anything that you need to enjoy the outdoors. So it's my job to design all the packaging and make sure it's consistent throughout and kind of telling the story, keeping in line with the man with the monocle is what, people know about Panama Jack. Our sun care brand is kind of like the first in the industry to really make it a lot of fun, I think, and like tell a story about it and not make it look so clinical, which I think is great for me because I'm an artist and I'm creative, and at this company they love original artwork and everything like that. Day to day, basically it could be anything from designing a logo, editing some photography for the ecom website. It's anything for social media that we want to push, email blasts. We do a lot of those, and then just like overall branding and developing for hats, eyewear, beach stuff, like all that type of stuff.
But earlier you were talking about furniture. Is that like what other maybe it's beach furniture, but like you were talking about some other things that people might not associate with Panama Jack that you participate in or you're involved in?
Yeah, so we have furniture lines. We have Palmetto Home, and then we have Pelican Reef, and one is indoor furniture, and then one's out sunroom and outdoor, so patio. And we actually have like outdoor pool tables, Adirondack chairs, umbrellas, anywhere between a 4 set to a 6 set dining set.
Are you involved in designing something for that? Maybe it's marketing for those furniture?
Yeah, so for that, I don't design. We have licensees that will do the furniture. That's what they're skilled at. And then when they show us the line, they'll say, okay, this year we have 12 pieces. And with furniture, it's a little different because they want to have a logo and a name for every single piece.
Okay.
So last year, I think I did about 12 logos because there was 12 to maybe 16 pieces. And what they do is like one of those outdoor beds was called Helios. So I had to design a logo, come up with a logo concept of what this furniture looks like, and then kind of translate it into a logo that will make people resonate with it. So
yeah,
that was kind of different because we actually like came up with the names too with them. Some of them we didn't like the names of what the furniture licensee came up with, so then we would kind of try to figure out like, well, this looks more like Helios or whatever as an example. So that's like one type of that. And then any ads that they need for like print, if they put it in a magazine or print collateral, I'll do that for them, and they give me the photography, and then I match the look and feel of it, give them as like assets, so then they can do an email with it or put it on their Facebook channels, like things like that. So a lot of our licensees are going to be getting to the point where even more so where we create the tools for them to then be able to post on their own, but at least they'll have branded elements, and then they can just kind of post it and write things on their own.
I see.
So that's
So
going to be something that we're working on.
So you're a creative director. Do you have other designers that you work with, or like is there like a team, or what's the
Yeah,
creative?
so there's a marketing team, but currently right now I'm the creative director and the designer slash the artist. But there are, with our licensees for hats, eyewear, all of them, they have teams that work on our lines internally. It's just me.
Yeah, you're not working with another, like a junior designer or something like that.
Not
Okay.
yet, but
It's-
eventually I'm going to be growing my team. I wish I had some help sometimes, but at the same time, it's like, well, overall, it's, if I had somebody, I want to be able to train someone and mentor them in the correct way.
Right. Yeah.
But we have a social media manager, we have a marketing and sales director, and then we have an e-commerce specialist manager.
So when you talk about like the licenses, like you're talking about like somebody else is making like maybe say a pair of sunglasses and you're putting some graphics on that eyewear. So like there's some sunglasses, they're branded as Panama Jack, but is that same style of sunglasses available in some other brand? Like like they're making sunglasses not specifically for Panama Jack, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so this company, they have licensees. So Foster Grant is a company in New York City, and they're the company that makes all of our eyewear for us. They're able to use Panama Jack to create a line for us, and it's just for us. Some of it might be similar, but a lot of it is because they can't, if you have all these licenses and they work with all these different companies, they don't want to have the same pair of sunglasses because it might have a registered trademark on it, or copyright, or a patent. For example, like kids, they showed a pair of sunglasses last year on a rendering, and it was flowers with like yellow and orange and purple and some pink. And I'm looking at it and it's just kind of like regular flowers, like just has generic. And I was like, okay, well, let's make these flowers tropical flowers and add in tropical leaves, because then that's more Panama Jack feeling of beachy, tropical, all that type of stuff. Right. So then when that kind of things happen, it's either I can do it and create a pattern, or I can give them feedback and say, hey, can you make these edits, or change these colors if it's a certain type of eyewear or an item that we feel strong about, that we want to edit and change. A lot of the times we don't really change what they're doing because they also know the trends. They're part of WGSN, so they know color of what's going to be trending like in the future, things like that.
What's WGSN?
Yeah, WGSN.
What's that?
Forecasting for clothing for brands. It's kind of like, how Pantone has like color of the year.
Right.
WGSN, they do it, but they show like all of this research. It's kind of cool because being just a part of the process of them showing us the line, I'm like, oh, I can tell what the trend colors are because everybody's showing the same colors from different companies. And then now you're seeing it on websites. For example, a big trend color this year is the neon green, kind of like that really lime green color.
Yeah.
Fuchsia is a big color that, so people are going to be looking for fuchsia items. So that's why a lot of brands will have certain colors, because it's just, they'll do their research with WGSN to then be able to sell products in their line if it makes sense for them.
You're in Florida. Where in Florida are you?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay, you're in Orlando. I thought that's where you were. And the Villages, is it part of Orlando? I mean, it's its own place. It's huge.
So Orlando, you can think of Orlando as Central Florida. And then if you kept going past Disney, the Villages is like right there, like they're like 50 minutes away.
Can you just because you work there? I mean, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
I have visited, but can you explain first, what is the Villages? And then we'll talk about like what you did while you were designing there. Like, so what is the Villages?
So the Villages is the largest master planning community in the United States, and it's probably going to be in the world because they're doubling in size currently. So they are a 55 plus community. And people kind of talk about it as like it's Disney for adults, for like seniors. So
Disney for seniors.
they have everything that you need to have fun, to live your best retirement where you don't have to leave. The only thing that they don't have is the beach. They have, I mean, anything a retired person or an active person would want, they have that. With every community, they have recreation centers, and they just have all these activities, and you pay a lifestyle fee to be a part of it, and then you can get all the access you want to the pools. There's golf. It has 56 or 58 golf courses. They might
What?
have, they might almost have 60 now. They have they're called town squares. So they have Sumter Landing, which has every night they have live entertainment and buy one free drinks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean the exercise types of activities that they have is really interesting. Any kind of club, they have over 3,000 activities and clubs. So
Yeah.
you can, if you say you're bored there, I don't think anyone could be bored there.
And so what were you designing? Like what, I mean, it's so huge. So
Mhm.
what part of the company were you involved in, and what were you like actually getting in there, getting your hands on designing for the Villages?
So I was on their marketing team, and I was doing any website graphics. I was doing anything digital. So social media, their email blasts. I create all these templates.
Mhm.
They're a real estate company, basically.
Right.
So I created a lot of tools for the real estate agents. That was a big undertaking, like a big project. And then any signage that they needed. So a big project that I worked on was redesigning all of the wayfinding signs for the Sumter Landing boat ride. And I actually themed the boat little house where you wait. I redid the marquee for the entrance. And that I knew how to do that from Imagineering and Disney. And I think that's a big reason why they wanted to hire me, is because I knew kind of like how to do all of that. And they're into construction and building. And with that comes signage and wayfinding and themed like areas and communities with names, with logos, like all that type of stuff.
So yeah, you mentioned Disney. Was Disney your job right out of school or
Yes.
soon after?
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what did you do there for Disney Imagineering? What's Disney Imagineering? Like how's that different than just Disney, I guess?
Yeah, so Walt Disney Imagineering is an umbrella underneath Disney. There's Disney World, and then there's Walt Disney Imagineering. So Imagineering is anything with like building, like anything with the parks
Okay.
or hotels, things like that. But I was on the graphics team. I was an environmental graphic designer. So that's kind of like exterior type stuff, signage. So my big project that I was on was Test Track. So when they renovated that whole project, that whole ride, I did all the ADA compliant signs. I did the graphics on the sim car, and that was a digital wrap. Any floor graphics, wall graphics that you see, that was like a big project that I did for them. Yeah,
Just
it's just
bring it
different.
up there and so I have a visual. This is the sim car.
Yeah, so that's the attraction car that you sit in, and 6 people can sit in that, I believe. So I designed the graphics on that, and it's a digital print, like so it's a wrap. They didn't actually paint it. Yeah, which is kind of like interesting to learn, really interesting to learn, because this has like not it has 3 pieces in the front, 2 on the side, and I think another piece on the back, and then I had to do all the deck pieces. But when I was working there, they didn't have the architectural drawings for this, which is fine. So it was more about, okay, well, GM wanted, they call their logo the bow tie. They wanted the bow tie to start in the front, and they wanted all of those lines to connect with the bow tie and connect to the back of the bow tie. So there's two bow ties, one in the front and then one on the back. And at the time when I was designing this, Tron just came out. So it's like kind of like Tron-y, sim car technology type of an
Yeah.
idea. That's why there's like a lot of like light, kind of lightning bolts, sort of, you could call them, geometric shapes to make you think of like kind of like technology. Disney wanted this car to be blue outside, and they also wanted it to be blue under blacklight. Well,
Um,
that was kind of difficult, and I actually had to play with like the colors of like the, you could call it paint sort of, or like the digital ink, because under black light blue can look purple
mm.
or red. So I had to play with like mix with the colors and things to like make it look as blue as it can be under the black light and in daytime. I actually did this super old school. I actually took kind of like tracing paper that was sticky, like control tack, and I went into the bay and the backstage, and I hand drew everything how I wanted it, because I didn't have like I didn't have the measurements or anything. So what I did was I traced every single piece and kind of like sketched what I wanted, and then I had to find a large scanner to then scan it all in, and then I made my art in Illustrator and Photoshop.
Cool.
So that's
Yeah.
how, yeah, so that's how we were able to, that's how I was able to connect everything. And working with GM, they were sending files over of like the art that they wanted to test and do, but nothing was matching up or anything. So that was part of my job to figure out all that. I didn't learn any of this in school. Like I learned it on the job. And when they told me, hey, Lindsay, you're going to be doing the test track, you're gonna do graphics on the test track car, on the attraction car. I'm like, okay. I'm like, wait, so what are we doing? They're like, yeah, it's gonna
What
be,
does that mean?
yeah. I was like, what are, I'm like, okay. And I was like, nobody else wants this, nobody else wants to do this. And they're like, yeah, so we're just gonna give it to you, and you know, you're just gonna, it's gonna be a wrap and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. So I figured it out. And that's a good thing I think that I really learned at Ringling was problem solving with the project that you're asked to do, and then figure out your process of how you want to achieve with the problem solving, and then you execute it.
Right.
So having that back kind of training from Ringling, I feel really helped me in all the jobs that I've ever have held, along with Disney, because starting at Disney really opened my eyes to what you can really do with graphic and design and art. You can put it on cars, you can put it on walls, you can do signage, you can, it's more than just print collateral, you know.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm really glad I started my career at Disney, and they also were very good at training as well and mentoring.
This is one I wanted to kind of ask about. Like, so this is a Disney project. So
Yeah, so that was
some of
for
the
the Disney
menus.
Dream. Yeah, the Disney Dream was new at the time. It's crazy now that they have like, I think they have like 7 cruise ships. Disney Dream was coming out, and they need menus and print collaterals. So I took elements from their brand guide and things like that and made this kind of like menu.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Something like this, most bigger companies, but certainly with Disney, were there a lot of guidelines and branding guides and things that you just had to stick to?
Yeah, so with the print collateral, there's another one that's a good example. Like anytime you want to use a Disney character, you have to pull it from a certain area, like in archives or in the library. So like for example, like
Like
the
this one?
happy, yeah. So that image there was already with Mickey, that was already art. So I found that going through archives and repurposing it. So I can't, I mean, I'm not going to illustrate Mickey and all this stuff. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, they have things approved. So when they gave it to me, I was like, I just have to go through things and research and find elements. Basically what I did was I did the frame, I did the type treatments, I did the the snowflakes and like the overall color. And I did like maybe 2 to 3 options, and then this is the one that they picked.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction. This is a good example, certainly for something like Disney or Mickey Mouse, like kids in high school, thinking about like design, they might think like, oh yeah, I want to go, work for Disney. And it's like, well, you're not necessarily going to go draw Mickey Mouse, but you might
Yeah.
use some Mickey Mouse assets and then design something, with
Right.
that. So yeah, the
Mhm.
last one I wanted to look at, and it has some things you had already mentioned, but what are you working on here? Because yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this.
This is, I forget what this is called, but it's a scavenger. It's kind of like think about it as like a scavenger hunt at Disney. It's a digital screen. And if you get to this area or this location, you do something or you put like a card in or something, and then it will start talking to you, and then it will give you the next clue to find the next location. So for this wall, I designed all of the wanted posters.
So you're working a lot with typography and just like
Mhm.
using a typeface and then distressing it or doing
Yeah.
different things to it or
Like this
hand
one,
drawing it. Yeah.
right, yeah. So actually the Enchanted Tiki room I had to hand draw because that was a typeface that they created from 72 when they opened up the park. So they had to remake all the ADA compliant signs. So what happened is I saw this typeface. I had to go to the Disney archives, or kind of like a library of like to see if they had like architectural stuff. And I I was able to like find a few letters, but I had to make all the other letters to be able to make the words of like
Okay.
what we wanted to say. So I kind of had to redraw this kind of tiki inspired font.
Yeah. So when you were doing this kind of thing, and maybe some other roles you've had, you're learning a lot about like materials that go into, because a lot of these are three-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
things that you're designing for. So how does that work into your design process? Can you talk a little bit about maybe that physical part of how you have to think about that as a designer?
Yeah. So how I approach it is it's kind of to me it's kind of simple, but I just think of it as like what's the canvas size and
Mhm.
what's the shape. So I start there, and then so for these exit signs or anything I did for Disney, I would have to go into the park with a measuring tape, take pictures, and anything with signage had a design intent drawing. And now at Ringling, they actually teach this, what I'm explaining. They have a whole degree in it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're the design intent drawing. I make the art. So I know, and I have to do everything to scale too. So you have to know scale, or you have to teach yourself scale. You have to be really good with like measuring tape and knowing like measuring. But
Some simple math.
yeah, once you like, do that and you take pictures, then you would have to do the design intent drawing after the design was approved by art directors and all that. You would say, okay, it's going to be made out of this. You do this, you do the elevation and the side view and the top view. Then you would show if is this made out of metal, and then is it painted? What are the paint colors? Like all that type of stuff. And then you would measure it. And a design intent drawing at Disney is all about explaining how to make it without telling the sign shop how to make it. So it's kind of like its own language in a way. Then also you have to say, well, how are you going to attach it? What are the screws? Like, what is this person going to need when they finish this sign in the sign shop, and who installs it?
Right.
How are they going to do that? But I got really into it, and I thought it was like really fun to learn different materials, how to apply things, because I guess my mind works this way. I can see a flat piece of paper, like see this design intent drawing, and know like what it's going to look like without seeing it physically.
So how did you end up at Ringling? You're from New England? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm from Massachusetts.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought I remembered. Okay, so you're in the Northeast. I'm gonna guess that it was like that old tale of I grew up in cold New England and I'm gonna go to school in Florida. Is it something like that, or how'd you end up at
Yeah,
Ringling?
yeah, kind of, yeah. Well, my parents, we would visit Florida growing up for vacations. We would go to Naples, Florida. I applied to a lot of universities. And when I went to see the campuses and things like that, their art department didn't really seem all that great. And then when I did all that, I came back to my high school art teacher, who was like the AP art teacher and everything. And she had me for 4 years. And she was like, well, why aren't you applying to art schools? And I was like, well, I want the university experience. I'm trying to play golf, do a whole like sport kind of experience because I was very into golfing. I wanted to be on a team, and then she kind of explained the difference between a university and a art school. But then she also said that you've already been doing like college level artwork already, and if you go to an art school, you're just going to learn more and more
Right.
than a university. So I was like, okay, well, it has to be in Florida because I just, because my brothers went to Florida schools. I wanted to go to a Florida school. We were kind of migrating to Florida. And I was ready to leave Massachusetts and be like, okay, I had 19 years worth of snow.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like I can go. If I can pick anywhere, like I want to go to Florida. And she said, well, there's this really great school there. So I applied, and then I got in, and then before I made my decision, I saw the campus, and I just like fell in love with it. I was just like, well, this is pretty impressive, and it seems like this would be a great way to, you know, be an artist and learn. And then I was thinking, well, I couldn't really see myself being in a room with 300 students.
Did it all work out? Did you have a good experience at Ringling? What was it like for you there? Like art and design school is very different than a large, research university. What was it like for you there?
I loved it. I love the fact that my my first hour in college was figure.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I just remember sitting there and being like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm like, it's the first hour of college and I'm already drawing and I'm already making art. Like, this is like so cool. I think what was impressive to me was the teachers when they the campus tour, they were explaining that, we have alumni that have worked at Disney and that have worked on Mulan and like random things, like just people out in the industry, and we have teachers that have had these jobs, and they've come back and now they're teaching and things like that. But I liked that it was small. I liked it was in Florida. It was cool that it was like by the beach. But I don't know, I just like fell in love with it, and it seemed like they had everything that you needed to be an
Right.
artist and to play and to figure out what being an artist is all about. I feel like you could make it as hard and as challenging as you wanted it to be,
Yeah.
which I did. I feel like I really wanted to do the best that I could do, and I wanted to learn as much as I could learn. I feel like I pushed myself to do different things.
Did you have like a favorite kind of design course or project that kind of led you into where you are now? Because I mean, if you look at what you've had for roles, there's some similarities of like we talked about like the kind of like the taking design but putting it into a three-dimensional context or an experiential context. Was there something in school that you connected with, or your career just evolved the way it did?
I think I really liked the packaging where you had to do the paper city.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, my paper city was like really out there.
Yeah. Did it have
um
a theme? I can't remember that wasn't my project, but was
yeah,
there like did you all have to pick a theme of the city or something?
yeah, so it was a paper city, and you had to come up with a concept of what your city is about, and
Okay.
then you had to build it based off of that. So mine was golfing. It was a golfing city that looked like kind of like a golf course, but the buildings and everything was holes in a relationship. That was like construction things and like making things. Like the other one in that class was taking a fruit and then making a box
Oh
out of
yeah.
it. So that was fun. That was like the first project, and then you did this like whole paper city.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the bookbinding class I liked. That was just like an elective, but that was a lot of fun. One that I liked a lot was the sustainability project my senior year. You had to find something and recreate it that someone would want to maybe possibly buy, or it has to be usable. I did a clothing line out of used t-shirts
That
for
was in a
that.
design class?
It was yeah, it was graphic design, the
Okay.
senior class. I don't know if they still do it, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
curriculum is so different now.
Is there something that you wish had they had taught you in college in art and design school that when you got out there, you're like, they didn't teach me this. Why not?
I think it would be like probably just like knowing that it's gonna take time to figure out like what you want to be doing with graphic design, and that's okay. Or like, you know what a good one is? I had internships and things like that, but it would have been cool if they maybe brought in someone from the outside, like someone in Sarasota that works for an ad agency, and had them come in
Mm.
and just do a project with the students. That would be a more work experience. And maybe that would be like a good thing for like juniors or seniors,
Right.
just to
Yeah.
get an example of, hey, this is what happens when you're out of college, because it's very different. Because there's, like you said, there's not as much freedom when you work for a company, like,
Right.
because it's not what you want, it's what the company wants. Or they might have brand guides that you have to use, and you might not like the brand guides, but you have to use them. I think the
Yeah.
students would benefit from that for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Always getting somebody else's perspective and real world challenges as opposed to the parameters for a school project are very different. So
And
uh
there was so much to learn too.
there's 4 years is not enough time, you know. That's why I always just tell
I know.
students, like, yeah, you spent 4 years here, but you got to go learn at least for another 4 years, and then you'll be ready to, like, you know, make some decisions. You had mentioned some things like golf. You mentioned golf a few times. Do you golf on a regular basis?
I used to golf a lot more. I've gotten back into it. I play golf, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, pretty good still.
Yeah, I actually have a handicap and everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things you do when you're not designing, you know,
Yep.
gotta get away from design a little bit. So you make soap. We mentioned that before. So, and you have a lot of house projects. Is it
Right.
something you do to, like, also have fun and just kind of, you know, play and do other things?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like an accidental flipper in a way. I'm on my third property, and I renovated and kind of like fixed a lot of things, kind of like did custom stuff, going back to like finding materials
Yeah.
that maybe was going to be thrown away and repurpose it. So as an example, like the latest thing that I made, I'm renovating a bathroom right now. It was just like falling apart, like a lot of water damage. I found a sink on the side of the road, and I picked it up, and then I cleaned it, and then I drip poured the colors that I wanted. And then my husband and we built the vanity base with the doors and everything, and painted it black, and then, picked the faucet, and then now that's going to be the vanity.
Yeah. I
Um,
saw that video on Instagram, right? That's the
yeah,
one with you're dripping the green and blue or something. And
yeah.
then,
It's almost at 90,000 views.
wow. Yeah.
What? I'm like, what? I'm like,
People
because
love those home project
I,
videos.
I'm trying to get back into like drawing and painting a little bit more, but everything is just kind of like a mess in my studio right now.
So
And
when do
then
you relax?
I like to work out. That's kind of like relaxing for me.
Yeah, it can be
uh,
after.
but when I relax or want to relax, it's usually I want to go to the beach, go to the pool, or find a spring that's like nearby and do that. I do yoga to relax. I like watching a lot of movies.
Yeah, watching movies. That's one of the ways I relax. Like, I just it can be even a dumb movie, you know. All right, we got to wrap up with the pop quiz. Favorite ride or attraction at Disney?
Big Thunder Mountain,
Work beverage, like
water.
coffee, just lots of water. After work beverage, like a Friday night or end of the week.
Well, if I'm into like wanting a drink, it's homemade pina coladas.
That sounds very Florida. All right. You live in Florida, the sunshine state. Do you wear sunscreen every day?
Not every day.
Not every day.
No, I should though, but no, I don't.
Oh,
It's not like I'm spraying sunscreen on, you know,
constantly? No.
constantly, no.
All right. Sketchbook, blank or gridded?
Blank.
Type or image?
Oh man. Type.
When you're working, do you listen to music?
I do.
What kind of music you listen to?
I listen to deep house music. I'm more creative when I'm listening to music with no words.
Laptop or desktop?
I like desktop.
All right. Last question in the quiz is, if you weren't a designer, what would you be?
A
That's
professional golfer.
there you go.
Professional
That's
golfer.
that sounds great. Any final thoughts for the aspiring designers out there?
I would say you're in college and you want to go the art avenue. I would say it pays off. It's a good field to get into. There's so many creative opportunities and disciplines that you can find jobs. It takes time, obviously. Explore as much as you can. Try different things. Try different mediums together. You know, that's a big part about being an artist, is just the experimentation of everything. And I feel like not a lot of designers do that or want to try to do that. So try to stay in the box. I've always been outside of the box by like miles, and I feel like when I have worked at companies, they have noticed that, and they know that that's kind of rare.
Make the time to play and experiment. It seems like that's a huge part of your work life and your personal life.
And just believe in yourself, because I mean, art is subjective and not everyone's gonna like what you come up with. It's not a reflection of you. It's what the company wants or what the person wants. So you just kind of have to guide them in the best way that you know how with your design and art skills.
Great, yeah. So yeah, it was great to talk to you, Lindsay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
So what do we learn from Lindsay? Well, when you're ready, make sure the conditions are right to mentor younger designers. And once in a while, use some old school tools like tracing paper to solve a design problem. Thanks to Lindsay Agnew of Panama Jack. If you have any comments or questions for me or any of my guests, please leave them in the comments. And subscribe so you can catch the next episode of Design Futures. Until next time, go learn something. Your future depends on it. Thanks for listening. See ya.